Super Bowl 3 years in a row, but you better believe the Chiefs are going to try. Looking at these odds to win the Super Bowl next year because, you know, it's never too early. Right now, it's San Fran that owns that top spot, looking to hoist that Lombardi trophy. The Chiefs next on the list. So, yes, it's the perfect time to look ahead and project which teams are poised to find success, but we also want to look at which teams might struggle in 2024. And that's where we start. Brady, we'll start with you. Each team looking to really build off of what they had happen last season, and maybe no other team than the Jets really trying to improve upon what occurred last season. We watched it all crumble in that first game as Aaron Rodgers went down. Do you think the Jets can get off on the right foot next season?
I think they better. Well done, by the way, incorporating part of that. It's going to depend a lot on that foot, ankle, Achilles, more specifically for Aaron Rodgers. It's a make-or-break year for Robert Saleh, his staff, and I think all parties involved. But I have high hopes for them. I did this past season, obviously, with the Rodgers injury. That kind of threw a wrench in the entire operation. But you still see what they're capable of. This is a very good defense. They've got pieces on offense as far as playmakers go. It's going to be the offensive line that needs to improve over the course of this offseason and free agency and the draft. But outside of that, with Aaron Rodgers back behind center, I think this is a team that goes from 7-10 to potentially 10-7 or better, and potentially will compete for the division title and maybe make a run once they get to the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is that big of a difference maker, in my opinion. So I think the Jets are one of those teams to keep an eye on. And there's a lot of hype last season with Hard Knocks, everything else. I think this season it's going to be a little more tempered down, but it's more legitimate. Rodgers plays and plays well.
Yeah, Brady, we saw the Taylor Swift effect in Kansas City, rookie year, almost an MVP for her and a Super Bowl. Well, the male equivalent to that is going to be Aaron Rodgers.
It's like, where's he going with this?
Slinging the pigskin around New York City. People are going to go crazy. They're going to go bananas. You remember when he ran out of the tunnel with the flag? I do. It's burned into my memory, and obviously it's holding hands with a terrible memory as well. We're not going to have that next year. I think the Jets, the onus is on the rest of the team. If Aaron's healthy, it's going to be so much fun to watch. Must-watch TV. The Jets are on the up and up.
I forgot about that, the image of him running out with the flag. So he's got
such high hopes.
Oh, it's so patriotic.
Like
I mean, just as America.
Yeah,
America.
There we go. All right, Kyle, I'll start with you for this next one. Bengals are your team looking to make a jump. They're coming off what some of the players called a wasted season with Joe Burrow's injuries. Well, he will be back and he'll be healthy. T. Higgins' future, of course, is a question, but looks like he'll receive the franchise tag. Kyle, why are the Bengals ready to make a leap this season?
Well, I was there when Kansas City lost to Joe Burrow in the AFC Championship in my only year in Kansas City. And the year after that, you watch Kansas City lose their #1 guy, Tyreek Hill, to Miami. And the next thing you know, they reinvent themselves offensively. What changed? Everything but the quarterback. Well, luckily for the Cincinnati Bengals, their quarterback, in my opinion, is the only guy who can really give Patrick Mahomes a run for his money when the crunch time happens, when it's time for hammer to meet the nail. I love Joe Burrow. The country loves Joe Burrow. I think that this team understands that their window is open as long as Joe Burrow is healthy. So, again, the onus on the team, not on the quarterback there. Joe, the ultimate competitor. I think the offense will look different, and I think it'll be an efficient one with Joe at quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt. They should be improved with Joe Burrow backline center and 100% healthy. I am curious, though, how much more they improve on their 9-8 season with Joe Burrow. And it's only because if you look at the rest of the division, Baltimore's still going to be Baltimore. I mean, they were the best in the AFC headed into the playoffs this past season. We had 5 starting quarterbacks for Cleveland. They still got into the playoffs. I mean, what a defense they've got with the addition of Jim Schwartz as their defensive coordinator. And the Steelers were a playoff team despite the fact that they didn't have their starting quarterback. It was a musical chairs at quarterback. Imagine if they upgrade at that spot, what the Steelers look like. So there's no doubt the Bengals will be improved. How much, I think, was more of my thoughts to all of this. One of the reasons why I didn't kind of put them as one of my 2 teams, because at 9-8, maybe they get to 10 wins, 11 wins. It's going to be a really tough battle in the AFC North.
One of your other teams, the Chargers, of course, we all have been super busy this offseason. The Chargers, on top of that as well, hiring new head coach and Jim Harbaugh, who is a proven winner. We all know that. They currently hold the 5th overall pick in the draft. So, Brady, where do you see their biggest growth happening?
Well, it's because of their head coach coming in Jim Harbaugh. I think he's going to add a different element of physicality to this team, much like we saw him do during his time with the San Francisco 49ers, as well as at Michigan, too. Both trenches, running the football, controlling the line of scrimmage, and not asking Justin Herbert to be Superman the entire time, allowing him to make plays when called upon. But there's a common thing that I think if you look at what Kyle and I are saying right now, it's either the quarterback or a head coach at this point. You know, the Chargers have a quarterback. They just need the head coach to be able to guide them there. And I think they'll be much improved on that 5-12 record that they had this past season. And obviously with the other two teams, it's a quarterback coming back healthy in Joe Burrow and in Aaron Rodgers. But the Chargers are a team, to me, that I think is a budding playoff contender. And maybe that scary team that no one's talking about right now that has, plus 3,000 to win a Super Bowl, that maybe you want to sprinkle a little money on if you're looking for a long shot in the next year, Kyle.
Yeah, and every time I think about the Chargers currently, I think about bad coaching decisions. I think about the team that is let down by the decisions made by the higher-ups. Well, you bring in Jim Harbaugh, you're going to get a team that you're going to factor in the X factor of having Jim Harbaugh on that team. That's more wins for the Chargers. And one hire that went under the radar for a lot, but it wasn't missed by me, was the hiring of Mark Trestman. He's my former head coach from the Chicago Bears. He drafted me into the NFL. He's a Bill Walsh disciple. He is very soft-spoken. He's really cerebral, and I think he's somebody that will match well with Justin Herbert on a day-to-day basis in the building. I think that the big difference this year is Justin Herbert continues to grow as a quarterback, which is a nightmare for everybody else, Brady.
No doubt about it. I mean, he's one of the most talented players in the league. I think we've all been watching him put up numbers and saying, okay, one of the wins going to come along with it. But probably Kyle's best point is the coaching decisions, I think, is the thing that stands out. It's probably one of the reasons why we're both optimistic on their ability to take that leap heading into 2024.
I like the Mark Trestman hire. That's a good point, Kyle. Let's take a look at the teams we expect to make a major fall. And Brady, I'll start with you and the Colts. Anthony Richardson expected to be back and healthy after playing only 4 games last season. Now, the Colts actually stayed in the playoff hunt late into the season, kind of a product of the division they're in, but that's a loaded AFC. So how do you expect them to finish this year?
I think there's a couple things working against them, which this past season, if you were a Colts fan and you're going to find out the fact that your first-round quarterback gets injured, you're still playing in meaningful football in Week 18 of the NFL season for a playoff spot, you'd say, heck yeah, I'll sign up for that. The problem is, I think as you go into this upcoming season, that there's no way the Jaguars are going to be as poor as they were this past year and not rebound from what we saw. I think the Texans are that team that can be one of the best contenders and probably the division winner. Now, I have no idea what the Titans are going to look like, but if you're talking about a 9-8 football team with a quarterback who only played in a few games and was injured throughout that period of time, there's some concerns there of Anthony Richardson essentially entering into still his rookie season, learning this offense, developing chemistry with all the guys he's throwing to. As good as he looked in a short sample size, that's a concern. And I think with the rest of the growth out around the division, the Colts seem to be that team that may be taking a step back as we head into 2024.
Hey, look, dude, I'm with you. Trevor Lawrence, he's awesome. Doug Peterson's offense, it's sexy. C.J. Stroud, he's the next coming of Jesus. But I got to tell you, if you want to keep the football out of these guys' hands, run an offense led by Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen. You can drain the clock. You can be that boa constrictor on the energy of the other team. I can't wait to watch Anthony Richardson. I think it's a team that will be playing meaningful football again with him under center.
We're going to look ahead to the Eagles now. Aside from head coach Nick Sirianni and a few others, the Eagles will have a new coaching staff in 2024. Vic Fangio, Kellen Moore. Of course, there's questions around Jalen Hurts. Now, in 2023, 10-1 to start the wild card defeat. It was a great start to the season, ended up quite poorly. Kyle, where do you see them struggling this upcoming season?
I think the struggling is going to be, again, at the leadership. Nick Sirianni's not somebody that's really sold me on being stones, particularly when it comes to crunch time. The other thing that worries me about this team is we saw the tush push at an astronomical rate last year. Jason Kelce still up in the air whether or not the centerpiece of that offense will be in there. I mean, he is the diamond tip to that razor that cuts into the defense. And if he's not in there getting maximum leverage, who knows? And also the Jalen Hurts situation. If Jalen Hurts is going to be banged up at the end of the year with all these question marks like he was last year, I have concerns about the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. I haven't even said the T word, tackling.
Which clearly they need to improve upon. There's no doubt about it. One of the reasons why I'm actually optimistic for the Eagles improving is you get Vic Fangio. He's a veteran defensive coordinator and defensive play call. I think he'll be a better fit for what they had last year, where they couldn't really figure it out between Desai and Patricia calling the defense. And then you had Brian Johnson on the offensive side of the ball in his first year really calling plays. Now you get Kellen Moore, veteran, experienced play caller. That should bode well for this offense. But Kyle brings up a lot of concerns and good points. You know, can Jalen Hurts stay healthy, especially if you're going to run him, considering how impactful he is running the football, and how effective is the running game going to be? If Jason Kelsey's not there, that's a big-time concern, not just in short yardage, but in general, run blocking and as far as pass protection goes, and just overall leadership in the locker room. So the hard thing is, you know, they could pretty much have the same season they had this past year. I don't know that I see them going much higher. I don't think I see them really taking much of a step back. I think with what they've added, at least on the coaching staff, they will be able to maintain somewhat of a pretty strong position in the NFC.
I agree with you, Brady. It'll look the same, and I think the letdown will be less for people in the city of brotherly love, because obviously people fell in love with the record this year, and you and I, we just know that wasn't the case with this team. They weren't ready to roll.
Yeah.
All right, before we let you guys go, the NFL has suspended Raiders quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. That news just coming down. 2-game suspension for the 2024 season for violating the league's policy on performance-enhancing substances. Our Jonathan Jones confirmed that one just recently. Now, Garoppolo is expected to be a free agent within the next month. So, Brady, we'll start with you. What do you think of the news?
Yeah, it's a bit surprising. You don't typically see, quarterback and performance-enhancing drugs paired together. It has happened throughout the course of time, but this is a little bit unique in that sense. The reality is the Raiders are going to be looking for a quarterback this offseason. This just actually saves them some money because it's going to avoid some of the guarantees that Jimmy Garoppolo was owed because of him testing positive for this. So in the long run for the Raiders, it might be actually a good thing for Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, it hits his pocket. And again, maybe there's an appeal and we see what comes from this, Kyle. But I'm not going to speculate as to what it was. But it is a bit surprising to hear, again, a quarterback next to PED.
Yeah, I'll be checking out Jonathan Jones's article. As always, he's got the best info. But as for Jimmy Garoppolo, it's a shame the court of public opinion, he's already guilty. And until we see more of the information, I can't really expound further.
All right. Well, thanks for your insight on that one, fellas. That was like very
well
PC.
said, Kyle. Very well said.
Kyle, you got a future in that.
Yeah.
It's an election year.
Brady Quinn, Kyle Long. I vote for Kyle Long for president. All right. Well, we got a lot coming up this offseason in the NFL. March 5th is the final day teams may designate a franchise or transition tag on a player. Free agency in the new league year will begin on March 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern. At that same time, the 2024 trading period will officially be underway after the expiration of all those 2023 contracts. And, of course, the NFL draft taking place on Thursday, April 25th.